Hey, I just going to look at the material here. I've sort of done a lot of research and I've been thinking about Melanesian architecture for a long time, and basically the structure that's behind most Melanesian architecture is basket. They're baskets. So that building, the big tall one that's behind you there, the Abalone one, is in fact a basket type frame. It's tied together, it's very flexible, it's put together when it's dabbed and it dries tight. Now, this mentality of making baskets goes right through everything, and it is exemplified in the structures that even of the string bags. So if we go this way, you'll see a basket frame that's exposed just here, which is the frame that the dancer wears when they take the crocodile mask, and that helps them hold the mask in place while they dance. You can see parts of a frame of a basket in that one, and we'll just keep walking. The Korma is different because the buildings are actually framed by post and beam frames, but the way that they make the roof that the ceiling belongs to is also about weaving and lashing and basket techniques of giving it strength and lightness and flexibility. And you can see even in the dance masks, they're all framed like baskets, and then these ones have the carpet-type cloth attached over the surface and tightened onto a basket-like frame. And it just keeps going through all of the work. So this is just a different perspective about how the underlying thing about the Melanesian architecture is to do with these things being bound together and largely considered as a basket type form, and that gives them this great strength. And it uses the materials that are available to them. They use very light materials, and that's part of what makes them ephemeral. The basket type bit of it is the first bit that goes, and it gets attacked by beetles and other insects, and it gets attacked by the weather. And so, the sun and the rain and all that kind of stuff break it down. And that's why all of Melanesian architecture is basically ephemeral. And some of the framed stuff, which is the exception, is on the Sepik River, where they use highly durable, very dense timbers to actually make the poles that they carve. Even in the framed buildings, where these would have beams that run across between the poles, very large beams, and the beams are lashed onto the poles. So the connection is tight and it's held together, but it can actually move. So if you have an earthquake, or if there's a flood and there's forces sort of pushing against the poles and so on, the joints at the top won't come out, but they'll move enough so that the structure doesn't get damaged. And but basically this is a frame which is much more similar to Southeast Asian ideas about building and European ideas about building, which is only seen in the North Coast and Sepik type of architecture. But when you get up to the top and you see how they're connected by lashing, which will tie into some of the other artists' work from this that we'll see. And when they move the roof and the finials and the ends and all the very delicate expression that they give to different roof elements, that's all basket kind of ideas being done.
Okay, so my work that I've made is the big yellow structure here at the end of the gallery space. It's made of cardboard and tape, which is being joined together and covered with yellow paint. I'm kind of interested in it looking like a sculptural form from this angle as you approach it. And the idea is that from far away, the materiality is disguised. And maybe as you get closer, it kind of, the nature of the structure is kind of revealed. So I'm kind of interested in it looking very sculptural, and then as you approach it, so we can walk towards it and kind of experience that. The precarious nature of it starts to become apparent, and you can start to see the sellotapes holding it together. And then you can actually continue walking around the structure this way, and you can actually start to enter into the work. So there's this large kind of cave entry which helps connect the inner workings of the structure start to become exposed or revealed inside. I guess you can take turns at walking through here. You probably won't all fit in today. So the inner workings are revealed and it's more like an installation project.
Thank you. Thank you. Basically, this work based on a traditional binding is called, we call it la lava. It's lashing, putting together the house and the canoes and basket and all kind of materials. And what I did is trying to draw all these, lashing the pattern and then transfer to the drawing on the paper. So all these the pattern there are the traditional patterns on the lava. And then after that, then I transfer to the flat, from a round surface to a flat surface, and then transform from there. As you can see, it's more dimensional, and bring it into more dimension. So you can see, walk around the pattern. As you know that the pattern was a 2-dimension, as we all know. But now bringing it to more dimensions, so you involve more on a pattern to understand inside out. And of course, to transfer from this, from the layer of the pattern into the forms. As you can see, these like two here is a female and male, and these two types of la lava, of flashing, and I call it 45 degrees and 60 degrees. As you can see, that they are same, and also some of the stuff here. So what it is, just bring into the more dimension so you can see it. But of course the pattern is more meaningful. It's a lot of things because one pattern is 1,000, 3,000 variation, how to understand it. So there's a lot of symbol, as you can see. It's just a learning to understand. And then I'm glad to bring all together the work so you can kind of familiar with all different transforming from the pattern into more form so you can see it.
Thank you, Felipe. You know, originally I was very interested in how the lashings held up the house. Did you speak about that? You know, how in terms of that idea of structure that we discussed as well?
Yeah. Okay. The first in the traditional they putting together the structure is usually the old some of the Pacific or the Tongan house usually the structure, and of course this usually the structure is you want the post usually like this, so all the two string that created they're putting and binding together. So to create the structure, as you know, usually the fale was a boat and then turned into a house. So yeah, so basically these are based on the traditional structure. Thank you.
Looking at the paintings themselves, you can see that they are interiors, 50s, 60s. I sort of think of these as the foundation to my works. They're like, if I could use a modernist reference, they're like my grid, I suppose. And within these interiors, I populate them with artifacts or tribal objects, as well as a lot of sort of modernist furniture. But also I take things away as well. So what I do is build up this sort of fictitious sort of world to my own liking, where I could sort of add and subtract things. I do, most of the research I do is gathering imagery. A lot of it is sourced through magazines, design books, internet, pretty much anywhere I could get it. And that's pretty much the same with the artifacts as well. I try and visit museums and take photos when I can or do the odd sketch. And I build up like a treasury of imagery, and this consists of maybe like hundreds, if not thousands of images. And like some sort of modern day bricoleur, I try and piece together these images to form what you see in front of you now. Sometimes they're successful, other times they're not. I think I've pulled off these ones okay. But it is quite a time-consuming process. I build up collages through as my drawings, and from there I would either grid up a painting and paint directly onto it, or project it, just depending on how much time I've got to make the work. Yeah, thank you.
My work is about cultural displacement and religious iconography. It's also a celebration of our ancestors, and at the same time it's a current dialogue about how to move forward together. These works have been created on international residencies in various different countries: Taiwan, New Caledonia, New Zealand, Australia, etc., etc. Part of my process is that I insist on working with indigenous communities. So depending on where the host country for the residency is, I research local history of the indigenous communities, and I create a project that brings them as an active participation. So the photography involves performers, actors, dancers, and then you have crafts like wardrobe, clothing, food, art department. All of this is all part of the process, and photography provides a cross-platform for all of these various mediums and multiple disciplines to converge together. Again, it's just offering an opportunity to speak visually and metaphorically, and to again celebrate our ancestors and our cultures, and posing questions and asking for directions on where do we go from here now.
Greg, can you talk a little bit about the soundtrack that you was commissioned?
Right. The soundtrack is courtesy of QAG, Queensland Art Gallery and APT7. They've helped us facilitate this soundtrack, which is it's called a karakia. Karakia is a Māori word for a prayer. So the prayer is a protection for the living as you enter the space of the underworld. And it's also to acknowledge our ancestors, and it's to give you safe passage back to the world of the light. So it may sound scary, but it's actually here to protect you.
Are there any questions? I've got one here.
Is this one photograph, or have you had to choose bits and then put it all together again?
In general, I approach it like we're making a film. We have everybody is in French it's called mise en scène. So it's like a theatrical production. Everybody's placed in the one shot together. This particular photo is actually 3 photographs, but so one photo, the right side is great, but the left side is not so good, and then another photo is the opposite. So we just merge it, which is minimal digital enhancement and digital retouching. The horse and the horse rider we trained for 1 month to rear on cue. So so all the actors and the horse are all together in the same scene. A lot of my influences come from Europe. Obviously, it's residue. I used to live in France for 10 years, being exposed to the wonderful history of the Louvre and other various institutions of the arts. Caravaggio is obviously a great influence for me. I love his work very much. It's so dramatic. There's so much drama, and it's there's other influences. Leonardo da Vinci, of course, with La Scène, the Last Cannibal Supper, which is the image over there. Again, it's meant to be provocative and political. I am reappropriating the Christian iconography. I act in my own work because myself, I have the Samoan traditional tattoo, which is, we've been practicing this for over 3,000 years. We've never lost the technique or the design, or the process is still the same. And what this means is that it predates Christ by 1,000 years. So give or take a few hundred. But again, it's about creating a dialogue and having a conversation. It's nobody's right and nobody's wrong. Everybody's right, everybody's wrong. So these are important questions, and it's a conversation that we need to that obviously needs to be continued. And through APT7, this opportunity has been provided to have this dialogue, and we're happy to have you here.
So this work is made from silage wrap, which is the green plastic wrap that the farmers use to wrap up the hay with to make silage, and the sort of scaffolding type structures are made from a fine chicken mesh. It's been spray painted. The way that I work is I always like to work in a really quite a spontaneous way, so I like to make lots of modules that can fit together, and as I install the work, I design it. So it sort of goes hand in hand. So when I move into a space, the architecture of the space kind of informs the way that I put the work together. The types of materials that I use, I often try to use recycled materials. With this work, I was sort of thinking about this, the idea of the artificial and the organic and the romantic, and how they sort of marry together in our in the way that we occupy the earth in a way. And I was thinking about the way that, like in a city, we sort of oppress the landscape in a way, and with the sort of cranes and the pulling up of the earth, and also the way that we that the sort of landscape of the city, the sort of organic landscape changes into a man-made landscape of the city. And so, I was just kind of interested in some of those ideas. Any questions? Oh, yeah. And so the plywood sort of hoarding is also, I was thinking a lot about the sort of construction industry as well, and the hoarding is like as if the inside of it is a construction kind of zone, so that's what that was.
Look, when we started looking at the Melanesian structures as baskets, that's kind of just one way of looking at how things are structured. We've now been around and seen artists who've considered binding by itself. We've seen a structure that's been made out of the idea of a solid space and this hidden crevices and other ways that you can kind of get into it. And we've seen the painter in Graham painting interiors. Now, just to get back now to, this is largely, there's a lot of painting in this show. People have commented about how much painting is going on. So what I want to just quickly say is that when you look at the front of that house there, the Aberlam one, it's a big triangle. This is a very strong graphic structure. So it's structured by an idea of symmetry, and it has layers, and the faces are all entire faces. You have to put that together. That is one painting, and it's been structured as one painting. Now, to contrast that, these guys, so this is an object that's always seen as an outside solid object from the public. The interior is something completely different, but it's the painting that you see on that is public, and it advertises the building, and building sticks up usually above palm trees and all these sorts of things. Now, When you look at this object down here, the Korma Ceiling, they have a completely different idea about how you structure the painting. It's different in the sculptured poles, but their way of working with the ceiling is to collect a whole lot of individual paintings and pieces. So they're all painted on bark off the sago, which is about that long and about that wide, and it tapers. And they prepare that and they paint on it. And the artists, sometimes they put two of them together, they stitch them together, but they produce all these things, and you have 200 and something odd panels here. And at the end, when they decide to put the ceiling up, they work out how to just assemble it. And so they compose the structure of the ceiling painting and the expression of it in a completely different way to the way the ABLAM does. And so you've got these two contrasts here, and you know, if we talked to the painters and we talked to the other people who were putting their work together there, you know, you get another set of different ideas about how the aesthetics work and how the culture works. Yes.
Thank you very much, Martin. Please join me in thanking also all the artists that have spoken on this talk, as well as Martin.